Hello, 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 ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is it, a bit of an impromptu stream, but it's a stream nonetheless. And tonight I'm going to be showcasing all the preparation that I do in order to basically get up to speed for the usual Apex Online Racing Tuesday night races that I do, and I guess also the endurance races as well. But obviously the endurance races, they're very much team sort of orientated, so there's a lot more going on there. But yeah, I thought that it would be a cool idea, because this Tuesday is going to be the final race of the season, to basically show you how about I go preparing and practicing ready for a race and work on a car setup. So that is going to be it here for this evening. So get yourself strapped in and comfortable, because there'll be a lot of diving into some technical data and some setup work. But yeah, I thought it would be just cool to kind of showcase that for you guys. And I can see that Assetto, you're here already. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing all well. And yeah, stream tonight, and probably also a stream tomorrow night as well if I end up doing any practice. So yeah, this is going to be a all access sort of viewing to my practice and preparation. Any practice that I do end up doing, I shall effectively show it and stream it. So without further ado, let's actually jump on in. I would say in game, but for whatever reason it's gone with completely the wrong monitor. There we go, that's more like it. Seeing yourself there wasn't ideal, but nonetheless it is what it is sometimes. But yeah, what you're seeing here is the telemetry program that I use, Racing Sim Tools. So yeah, if you haven't heard of them before, go and check them out on Google. And for those who are watching this back later on after the live stream's done, I'll leave a link to Racing Sim Tools, their website, down in the description. But we've got ACC set up here. Let's actually go and set and prep the car ready for my first bunch of laps here at Silverstone. And hello XL, welcome along, hope you're doing all good. So yeah, the thing with Racing Sim Tools is, unfortunately, you got to input a few little bits and pieces with regards to the car. Good thing is they do a number of stuff purely out of the drop down through the list of cars here for ACC. So they've got every single car, and when you load a car up, it automatically inputs the correct data there and what have you. So that's not too bad for chassis, but for suspension there's some things that we actually need to input in. But these things are going to be based off of the settings, the suspension settings that we have in game. So what I'll do is quickly click to the actual game itself, load up the aggressive setup, take a look at the mechanical grip. So we've got 160,000 new meters on the front and 150,000 on the rear, anti-roll bar of 2 and an anti-roll bar of 4. So if I quickly find the program again and bring that back up in the spring rate here. So this is front spring rate, I need 160 in there, 150 in there. Now the ARB rates, there is a online spreadsheet that allows you to calculate the anti-roll bar rates, but I know what these are already off the top of my head. Basically it takes the number of clicks or values that you can input, and then it kind of divides it or does some calculation, including the actual value itself that you're using to output a value to enter into this program here. So yeah, 50 on the front and then 33 on the rear. Right, next bit. I apologize for this slight black screen for a moment as we're flicking between programs, but we've got the anti-roll bar rates in, we've got the suspension wheel rates. The last thing we need to input is the ride heights, both front and rear. So we've got 55 on the front, 74 on the rear. So go back here, 5 front, 74 rear. And then what we will need to do is input the static heights, but we can't get these until we've actually done some running. So what I'm going to do is save this out, V1, and that should be all good there. Right, so we're good to go. That's all now prepped and sorted, ready for some running. A couple of things that I will just very quickly do before I start doing any running is closing the rear brake bias. Everything else looks good there. Put that down to 25. One on the brake, that's front and rear. And I'll go up a single click on the caster and max out the rear camber. We'll go with that for now. XL, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Very much appreciated. And Assetto, glad to hear that stream quality is better than previously. I haven't changed anything, no. So not entirely sure what's going on there. But the only other thing that's kind of changed is the webcam. I've now actually got a good webcam rather than the old Logitech C920, which was a good webcam, but it being from 2012, it kind of shows its age a little bit. But now we've got a nice new lovely Elgato face cam, and that is much better quality, actually streaming in full 1080p 60 FPS on the webcam, so things are probably looking a lot better there. Just need to get a proper lighting setup. Okay, so everything else looks all good and all set, ready to run. So this is pretty much basically the default aggressive preset. The only changes I made is a rear camber, up in the caster by one click, dropping the rear brake bias, taking a load of fuel out, and setting the brake pads to setting 1. So let's actually get ourselves out onto circuit, get some laps in, so we've kind of got a little bit of representative data to work with. So we should be aiming for 57s really here in these sessions, judging from what we had in the AOR Endurance League earlier on at the start of the month, where the first opening round was at Silverstone. Can't quite remember what the temperatures were back then, but I think they were a bit cooler than what we're running here. Lando, indeed, the music can be turned off. I'll turn it off in a second once the song finishes. I just realised that I didn't have any of the game sound up and running, so apologies for that, but it should be all there now. Quite a bit of oversteer there, going to need to watch out for that. And address that as well at a later date. So yeah, probably what I'll do is do 4 or 5 lap run, just to kind of get a feel for the car, get a few times on the board, and kind of identify any areas that I feel are going to need some troubleshooting and improvements on. Right, there we go, I'll stop the music. Hey John. They have fixed the negative toe. Some cars still benefit from running it, or it just feels better running negative toe, but for the Bentley it doesn't really work anymore. So one thing I can tell already is the rear is a little bit loose and a little bit floaty. places. I'm not too worried about invalidating laps and stuff. So the laps still get counted in the telemetry app. Bit of oversteer there, but it's kind of to be expected. A little bit more cautious that time going in. The rear end was a little bit more pointed, which is good. So yeah, one good thing is, obviously, I know Silverstone fairly well, so I don't need to worry too much about actually learning the circuit and spending time doing laps there to kind of get up to speed. So already relatively fresh. So it's more going to be about finding the time in the car setup. Obviously there will be some time to be found by running laps. Can't get caught up on the curve there. It's one of the downsides of running maximum camber, as the car gets quite heavily affected by the curves. Pushing a little bit too hard there. Chicane that, brake a little bit later. These aren't the most tidiest of laps, but that's fine. There's not really too much that I go and actually change from the first run. It's more to get a good idea as to what's going on with the tyre pressures and also the brake temperatures. Those are the first key things that I go for to try and sort out. Unless there's something else obviously glaring out at me that needs changing, such as the aero balance. Answer that question in just a second there, Thando. So comparing ACC, and I guess iRacing as well, because they do play a bit of iRacing, compare it to Project Cars 2. What are my thoughts, differences between the two? How exactly does it compare? So, I think ACC is certainly a big step up in terms of the GT3 cars compared to Project Cars 2. They've obviously worked a lot closer to the actual teams and the SRO series, seeing as it's ACC is in effect the official SRO GT3 game in a way. So I say GT Championship game. They would have got a lot of data in that from teams, manufacturers in the series, and where they've got a much smaller band of content, pretty much being only GT3 cars at the time when they were obviously developing the game. They've added other stuff since. There was obviously the exception with the Lamborghini Super Trofeo and the Porsche Carrera Cup car, as I'm pretty sure they were in. But either way, the main bulk of the content is GT3 focused. The developers could focus all their efforts and everything on just getting the GT3 cars as best as they possibly could, whereas obviously with Project Cars 2, it's a mix of road cars, racing cars, and within both those two pools, there's a lot of variety in terms of race car content. It wasn't just GT3s, there was GT4s, GT5s, GTEs, LMP cars, open wheels, and then you had road cars ranging from Ford Mustangs all the way up to the Holy Trinity and some track day stuff and other bits and bobs. So obviously SMS had to spread their resources a lot more across the entire range of content in order to get it up to standard, whereas obviously Kunos had the focus to really dive deep. Well, shall I say, had the time and resources to really focus hard on diving deep into each car and really perfecting the handling model. So naturally out of that, ACC is better. When it comes to iRacing, they're a bit behind in terms of content. They don't have all the GT3 cars, and the number of GT3 cars that they actually have are very old and are now outdated. But iRacing being a service, they're constantly updating the game. Sure, we'll see more newer cars, excuse me, coming out in the future. I haven't tested the latest update on the GT3 cars where they have changed the aero model and that with the cars, but from what I've seen, it's not quite as accurate as ACC here, so that's effectively my thoughts and feelings. Okay. Two laps in, that'll do for now. Go back to the garage. Right, first things first, let's fix the tyre pressures. So we're half a PSI down front left. One too many, 0.6 on the front right. Right, 7 on the front right, but I'm going to increase that by 1 extra. And likewise with that one. The main reason being, so I'm obviously aiming for 27.7 PSI, but what I'm doing is putting about 27.8, 27.9 on the right hand side because there's a couple of curbs in and around Silverstone, mainly turn 1 at Cops and then also on the entrance to Mags and Beckett's. If you catch the curb wrong there, it can knock some of the air pressure out of the car, and obviously the tyres lose a little bit of pressure with that. So we've fixed the tyre pressures. I'll load back up into our telemetry tool here, and the first thing that I'm going to do is input in the static height values here for both the front and also the rear. So to do that, I need to go to damper speeds, change that to time, sort the graph out, and at the beginning here we've kind of got a steady state with the car. Let's decrease the size of that a little bit just so it fits onto the screen slightly better. So yeah, we've got this kind of flat steady state here with the car, which is good, great for grabbing this sort of data. So I'm going to want to do it for the next session as well, to be fair. So I'm just going to do it in here, and basically what I'm looking at is these values here. So basically taking an average of that, I can say it's 16.65 on the front, so we're going to put that in there, and we can say 16.9 on the rear. So I'm going to save that out, overwrite that, close that, bring the program back up again, because what I want to do is change the car parameters here for this session. So basically, pretty much every single time that you go out and do a bunch of laps with RST, it records it as a session. So you can go out, make a bunch of changes to a car, go check what things are, do another bunch of laps, and then with like some more changes, and then come back and do some comparison laps. And it allows you to input unique values for each session that you do, right? Each bunch of laps, group of laps, shall I say. So you get accurate data recordings, which is very, very good, very, very handy. You can see here, it's using the old values that I inputted before the sessions. So I'm just going to load up what I just saved there, close that out, and that's going to update. Little bug there, where the window doesn't always necessarily close, but it's fine. Right, sort that. So, next thing that I wanted to do was go and have a look at the brake temperatures to see what is going on here. Now, obviously, this is the very first lap, which isn't representative at all, so we're going to grab the last lap and look at that. So, on the rear, we are peaking at about 400. And then on the front, we're picking about 466. A slight imbalance there, so I should probably increase the ABS. Because as you can see, one side of the car, the temperatures aren't getting up as high as the other. Gilham Brew, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Just seen that, and also just heard it. But yeah, one side is slightly hotter than the other, which means that one of the front wheels is locking, it's not rotating as much, and therefore it is producing lower temperatures. So I need to increase the ABS, probably shift the brake bias a little bit further rearwards. But what I can see in terms of the temperatures is that they're a little bit under where I want them to be. On the front, I kind of want them somewhere between 600 and 650 at peak temperature. And then on the rear, I kind of want them in around 450-ish. So, what we're going to do is going to go into the aero, and we're just going to drop both sides and click. What I'm also going to do is now going to go and save this setup. So, we usually start off with the car name, then the track, and then on dry version 1, and then what I'm going to do is put the ambient and the track temperature in there as well, just so I know when it comes back to that. Useful little bit of data to know when loading the setup, so pretty good. Hello Andrew, good to see you, hope you're doing as well, all good as well. And Assetto, I haven't actually tried Motec. What I've heard from some people though is Motec does expose some data channels that Racing Sim Tools doesn't, but there are other telemetry channels that Racing Sim Tools does that Motec doesn't. So, kind of, it might be a good idea to actually get both, so you've got all the data there. Right, the other thing that I felt was the rear end was a little bit sketchy. That was mainly in the high-speed corners rather than low-speed, so I'm going to leave the rear ride height as it is, and I'm going to go click up on the rear wing, and I shouldn't need to change anything else. What I will need to do, I'm just going to save it, it's that as well. Probably should have saved it as a separate file, but that's fine. Yeah, what I will need to do is, after this run, is go and check those heights on those springs again and readjust them, make sure that they are actually accurate. I'm just going to sit on the limiter for a second whilst I put my gloves back on. And I shall also again pause the music once the song is finished. There we go. Annoyingly, you usually have to take the gloves on and off a little bit when typing with the keyboard, because the gloves don't work too well, and sometimes I end up pressing other keys that I don't actually want to be pressing. Hey Levi! Oh, hey Levy, how's it going? Yeah, that's sometimes a good idea as well, Andrew, but I've not ever done it. It probably is a good idea to actually do that though, just in case. As Andrew says, there are changes. Very good. Yeah, Andrew, the level of detail in terms of the telemetry is useful. Once you've used it enough, you kind of... That's the end of the session. Never mind. We'll just roll on to the next one when it cycles round. Yeah, once you kind of have done enough of these sessions, you kind of get an idea as to what to expect from the data. You don't really need to be using it in order to figure out what it is that you need to do, what it is you need to change. Obviously for some values it is very, very useful to actually get that accurate data and those actual values, such as the brake temperatures. But you can also, with some things, guesstimate stuff. I think the main thing would be dampers.
Green light, give it all you can.
Just get a fresh set of tyres on, and we'll go back out again. Right. Go out once more, do some more laps. See the number of people in the server has dropped because AOR usually do some practice races on the Sunday and also the Monday, but I don't tend to do the Sunday one because I usually spend the Sunday evening actually setting up the car, and then the Monday it's kind of more testing and final tweaks. Yeah, Angie, you can look at some data with regards to like spring rates and that. However, I tend to more rely on actual feel and lap time rather than looking at actual data for them. The data just kind of reaffirms and confirms things effectively. Just something to kind of double check against. Alright, so same thing again, we'll do 4 or 5 laps just to get another run in, and then we'll start making some more serious changes. I'm going to move that brake bias rearwards a bit, and we shall also increase the ABS as well. Just by 1 click, just to try and manage and reduce some of that difference that we're seeing in terms of brake temperatures. Practice, Dennis. Also, I'm not actually sure how good the pop is for the Merc Evo. Wait there. I think the Merc is kind of dropped back in pace a little bit in the field compared to where it used to be. does get very light there, going into Abbey. I have some ideas of what to do to fix that. The interesting thing is once you spend enough time with a car and kind of testing it at various different circuits, you do tend to find that you settle on a particular setup that starts to work for a lot of tracks. Obviously there's some exceptions, like Monza for example, where you'd run like near zero wing and kind of focus very heavily on straight line speed. But a lot of other circuits such as Silverstone, Nürburgring, Misano, you start kind of piecing together and the setup becomes very, very similar across all the tracks bar a few small tweaks. Yeah, you can tell the rear end is really moving quite a bit. Again, I'm going and validated the lap there. That was a lot more calm and planted. Brakes on this Bentley don't seem to be as good as the BMW. Running a little bit deep into the hairpin after turns 1 and 2 of the F1 circuit layout. Maybe stay there. Fix that. I forgot about the pressures with the brake ducts. Never mind. Get the deal that time. Quite a big difference between the cars, Stando. Certainly, when it comes to front versus mid versus rear engines, though there isn't really any rear engine cars anymore. The Porsche just about qualifies for it, but even still, its engine is getting closer and closer to being mid-engine, like the Ferrari and the Lamborghini and the Audi. So yeah, there's quite big differences there, and then also differences when it comes to turbo versus naturally aspirated. But each car's got its own unique handling characteristics, which is very cool to see. It does make it more enjoyable actually learning a car and trying to get used to it. So certainly seem to be off the pace a bit in comparison to the BMW. That's okay, that pace will come. Struggling to go lower than a 58.3 quali. Yeah. I'm struggling to get in the 58s. Again. Okay. Alright, let's bring that back up once more. What we should do very quick. Let's go back to the handling tab. Double check them damper speeds. About there-ish. Double check these and update them. So we need so they're a bit more accurate to 69. I'm going to put that 5. Right. Shall overwrite that. No, it's good. Right, okay, then let's double check our temps on our brakes now. Back to distance. Time. Okay, over here we're peaking about 500 all round. Okay, so the fronts are good. The rears might be a little bit hot. So, we'll very quickly go and make that change. Bump that back up to 3. Right. Have a look at some other stuff. So these are the dampers at the moment on the Bentley. The rears are always weird, so don't be alarmed that they're not overly peaky, and it's a bit up and down all over the place. We can certainly refine that. It certainly seems that on the rear there's a bit of bias towards the rebound, so where that dotted line is now is effectively the 0 point, as you can see. Anything to the left of the line is rebound related, anything to the right is bump related. The first few bits, so probably about there, 40 to 50 odd millimeters per second is your slow damping on both sides, and then anything beyond that is your fast damping. So, what way are we going to go with aerodynamics? So we got, looking at this top line, we've got the axle load here in newtons. So effectively, the more downforce on the car, or the more the car is producing downforce, the higher the axle load is going to be on either the front or the rear. We can see that in a couple of places. Kind of mid-corner, we're getting negative values on the front, which is something that the Bentley seems to do, or I found, weirdly. Another quite useful thing to know as to how much grip you're getting or how much downforce you're getting is this graph below it here, the lateral G, or lateral acceleration in G-force graph. Obviously, the more G's you're pulling through a corner, the more grip you are producing. And then this graph down the bottom is the speed, so you can kind of see as the speed is building and we're getting up to 250 kilometers an hour, producing plenty of downforce on the front and the rear, more so on the rear. And then as we brake, we're getting over -2 on the longitudinal G-force scale, depending on the bumps. And that obviously pitches the nose forward. It puts the rear of the car up, and as you can see, that's gone into a negative value, probably because the rear of the car has gone up so high that the rear diffuser is not really producing any more downforce. The airflow is kind of detached, but once it gets to a certain speed, the front splitter kind of stops producing downforce. And as you pick up speed, the nose goes up, the rear end squats, so you get a reverse. The rear starts producing downforce, the front doesn't produce as much. So it's something you tend to see with the Bentley. So yeah, I'm wondering what to do with regards to the car. I think overall the front is too stiff, so I'm going to go 1 click down on the anti-roll bar, 2 clicks down on the front springs as well for now. Leave that as is. I'm also going to make this change as well. Generally what I'm doing here is not a good idea. That is making multiple changes in one go, but obviously I've spent so much time with the car I'm driving and testing various different things. And I'm kind of not necessarily rushing, but you know, wanted to do and demonstrate things at a reasonable pace. I'm making multiple changes here. I am going to increase the rear a little bit. It's going to make us get a little bit more rotation come the mid corner. So I'm going to save this as version 2. Close that out. And because I ended up changing some things here, that went to 150, we left the ride heights as they were. That went down 2 clicks, 30. That went up a click, 44. No. That went down a click, didn't it? Yeah. And we'll save that as DV2, just so if I want to save this data and look back at it at a later date, I know what setup it's in relation to. So we've got a bit of correlation there between the game and telemetry app. Now let's get back on track and see whether there's any improvements with the car there. So what I'm hoping that with this with these changes, softening the car up a little bit, is in the slow speed corners with the slightly softer anti-roll bar. I should get a little bit more grip in the mid corner on the front, with the rear being slightly stiffer on the anti-roll bar. What I should see in those slow speed corners is a little bit more rotation from the rear in those slow speed corners. And then at higher speeds, a little bit more aero stability, so the car should feel a tad bit better coming into some of the corners and not snap out or snap round quite as heavily as it was. I did forget to adjust the brake balance again. Set the ABS back to what it was. And then yeah, with the softer suspension, what I'm hoping it's going to do is take away a lot of the stiffness that was kind of there at the front, which is going to help us certainly in the slow speed corners. But it should also, I'm hoping, help us a little bit with the higher speed corners where the car just wants to kind of naturally lean a little bit rather than being super stiff. Obviously having a stiff front is good for aerodynamics, but I think the Bentley is a very, very stiff car naturally on the front anyway. Having it move and roll a little bit more just gets it a little bit closer to the deck in certain situations. It just makes the car a little bit grippier in the mid corner. Oversteer there is one thing they're kind of struggling with. Have an idea as to what to change to kind of help rectify that. But I'm just keeping that one kind of, that change for later. I'll sort and fix other areas of the car first. That's too deep. A little bit better now that tyres are at better pressure. Not making that one. Seem to have found a bit of pace. Yeah, McLaren's definitely going to be strong here. High downforce track. McLaren's a very downforce efficient car. Produces a lot of downforce, so it's going to be very quick. BMW's quick here as well as the Ferrari. And the Aston Martin's not too shabby either. I need to sort my line out and stop pushing the car a little bit too hard through that corner. Actually make sure that I make the exit. Yeah, the British GT Championship is an interesting one. I don't know if it uses the same BOP as other GT3 series. So yeah, you can probably see that one of the main areas that I'm kind of struggling with a little bit is the rear end on power coming out of some of the slow speed corners. The main thing that I will change to sort that out is the differential, the preload, where the Bentley has so much torque. Having quite a high preload can quite easily induce oversteer when you don't want it. Moving around a little bit, and we're going to lose a whole bunch of time here.
Yellow flag accepted.
Want to be a bit more aggressive going into there, but at the moment the rear end of the car is not liking it. Tyre pressures are all good though. Right, 58 is definitely possible.
Well, okay, this is me,
little bit too early there. Gonna have to take multiple stabs at it. It's bouncing around a lot. That's a bit better. Right, 59.0. Okay, so bring this back up. Same thing again, just make sure that damper speeds are all good here. And of course they have changed because I updated the suspension. So 17.85. Yes. Okay. Alright, getting onto the 600s at the front is good. Okay, I'm happy with that. So the temperatures in the brakes are looking nice. Dampers have some work to be done there. Do two relatively comparable lap times. So the green line that you can see here in this lateral G graph is the session or the run that I did previously with 160 springs on the front, and then the red line is the run that I've just done just now on the 150 springs. When it comes to the two graphs at the top, red and blue line are again the latest run that I did. Yellow and green line are the run that I did previously. So generally, and it looks like in a number of places, we're now producing a little bit more G-force going through the corners in a number of areas. Helping us, although on the entry to Maggots, there's a little bit more G being produced than the previous run, probably because of the line that I took into the corner. See, it's a little bit more peaky on the previous one as well. It looks to be slightly higher. Ooh. Sorry. It then looks to be slightly more that I'm producing on the latest run, but you can see there's a lot of oscillation going on there. That could be tidied up with dampers. Likewise through there, there's one point where I did lose a bit of G. That was the lap that I did previous where I went in a little bit too deep, I think. Which cost me some time. So yeah, it seems like going with softer suspension is the way to go, especially when you start looking at ride heights. So again, I'll turn off the graph so you can kind of see the difference. This green line is the main one that you want to pay attention to in both of these. This is basically like the main axle, red being the left side, blue being the right side, and green is kind of, you know, in the middle, the average of the two. And if I turn that back on, green versus purple, effectively what we're looking at. So it looks like the front in a number of places is a bit lower, squiggly lines. As you can see the rake here as well. Red being the latest run, yellow being the one previous. So there's a little bit more rake in the car in a number of spots. You can see the speed difference there. Look, you can see where I went deep going into Stowe Corner. There down in the bottom. Went in a little bit too hot, which then meant that I was playing catch up on the exit and losing time there. Okay, so I think going that would have been hitting that curb. Alright. So yeah, I think hitting going slightly softer is the way to go. Right. Again, I'm going to make some changes. Multiple ones at the same time. Now, in the previous run I was talking about a change that I was going to make that is going to make quite a big drastic impact on the car, and that is the diff preload. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Usually I'll wait until a bit later on, but for demonstration purposes, I dropped that down to 30 to start off with. But let's go take a look at the dampers, because we're seeing a lot of oscillation, and I want to try and kill some of that. So I'm going to stiffen up the fast bump and fast rebound, which is going to help us with the bumps, and then I'm going to go softer on the bump all round, a couple of clicks, and a one click on the rear, and we're going to go quite a bit stiffer on the front. What I'm hoping that should do is going slightly softer on the bump is going to load the front tyres a little bit quicker going into some of the corners, so we should have a little bit more grip available to us earlier on. With the rebound, stiffening that up is going to make the front slower rising with the rebound, or let's just say the suspension extending. It's going to slow that down, which is going to provide us with a little bit more grip when coming off slow speed corners at the front of the car. Should be a little bit less understeer there. Going to allow for a little bit more squat on the rear, or the car to squat a little bit quicker, which should help make the car a little bit more planted. And then the rear rebound is going to slow the rear riding up with that going stiffer. And then the fast bump and fast rebound, stiffening that all around just to try and dampen out those bumps a little bit. Be a good idea there. Okay, so because I didn't actually change anything with regards to the stuff that affects the telemetry, we're just going to identify the change with nay rather than changing the actual version 1 to version 2 to version 3. I'm going to go to 2A. As I mentioned before, I would spread these changes out a little bit more, but demonstration purposes. I'm trying to speed this process up a little bit. We're clumping these all together, because obviously if I'm not if I wasn't streaming, I'd just be quickly making those changes and then going back out again. Whereas obviously now I'm taking a little bit more time to actually explain the changes to you and kind of showcasing what's actually going on there. So in a way I'm losing a little bit of testing time, but it's fine. I want to show you guys what I'm actually doing and already the car feels a bit more compliant and wanting to respond to things a little bit quicker. So there you can see the rear end, although it still did break away a little bit, it wasn't anywhere near as bad as previous runs. So that diff change is going to help out an awful lot. It's going to reduce that oversteer on exit, and also in the mid corner it's going to allow the car to rotate a little bit more. On some tracks though it's better to go with more diff preload, as the preload effectively adjusts when the diffs are locking and unlocking, and sometimes you want the diff to be in a locked state rather than an unlocked state, which is what the diff will be in now, and then as I get on power and straighten up, diff will become locked. See what these changes have done in terms of lap time. Hey Matters. Yeah, the game does look a bit grainy, which is a little bit annoying. There's probably something in the graphics that I just need to tweak, just to make it a little bit better. Smooth that out. I can't quite remember what the setting actually is. Still getting a bit of oversteer there. It's not as horrendous, it's a bit more manageable. Alright, pace is there. Just need to actually convert it into a decent lap. Yeah, I think it's the anti-aliasing for me that's ruining the overall image quality. Because when I change it or load up the screenshot graphics preset that I've got saved, it actually looks a lot better. Edge. Bit too much oversteer there. not wanting to turn there. Change down to second then. Mattis, what I might actually do is just actually up the anti-aliasing. That'll probably work for me. At least I'll try that first before trying and deleting my profile. Thanks, dude. No worries. Never mind. A little bit too eager with the throttle. Right. Well, let's see where we're really struggling in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Sector 3 is fairly good. So Sector 1's all high speed, Sector 2 is low speed, Sector 3... I think we're good for slow speed corners, but not so great for high speed. So, bring this back up again. I didn't change anything damper-wise, did I? No, I changed the dampers, but not... Still, just double check. Switch that back to time. Yes. No. Good. Okay, so we made the front very, very peaky, with an extreme bias towards bump, and then there's quite a heavy bias towards rebound on the rear. So, increase bump on the front, decrease rebound on the rear. That should sort those things out. One good thing, I didn't want front, I wanted track. One thing I wanted to do was kind of compare it doesn't do the two side by side anymore. Kind of compare the two diffs. Whoopsie daisy. Didn't mean to do that. What's that doing? What's that? Mainly here, wasn't it? So yeah, you can see with the higher diff preload, it's locking and unlocking a lot more going through out the exit of Vale and in towards Club. As you can see, the more yellow or the more orange it is, the more unlocking there is from the differential. Where I've now loosened the diff, you can see it opens a lot more wider, and there's still points where it's kind of unlocking and locking. Alright, something quite radical that I want to try out. It's going to be a little bit experimental, but I want to see what this does with the car. Next session car parameters. Come on. 135. And then 60, 55. Right. We're going to input those things and see how the car actually handles that. I'm also very quickly going to do video. Alright. Like that. So it's some of, but not all of it. Nope. Hey. Oh. Epic, epic. I think it's still quite brainy. I don't want to go into the setup. Whoops. That's helped a bit, but I don't like the go with that. I don't like the ghosting that you get from the temporal anti-aliasing. Oh, it looks really bad. Load it. Go back to whatever it was. Alright, let's do some more runs. So, yeah, as you probably saw, softened up the suspension quite a bit, front and rear, on the spring rates, then stiffened the anti-roll bars back up again. So what I'm hoping to try and do is get a little bit more aerodynamic, or better aero platform. From the anti-roll bar, which it might just cause more understeer. But the softer springs is going to help in the slow speed corners. Okay, we are seeing some benefit at high speed. So one of my big bugbears was that coming through corners at turn 2 of the F1 layout, the car was just washing out way wide, which is putting me well offline for the heavy braking zone into village. Let's see how the car now fares in Sector 1. myself up well for that corner as I was looking down to find the button to pause the music. So we'll discount this lap, but it's an invalid lap anyway. Oh, and the end of the session as well. So 59.0 was the previous best lap time.
Session is now over.
Definitely better through Cots, Mangles and Beckett's.
Go, go, go.
It's good. There's some more things that we can do as well. Right, start up again. Here we go. Right. More preference. Try and get down into the 58s. About the ABS, the brake bias. Too much cab there on the inside. As well too early. actually get a decent amount of lap in, and that's the 58. Corsa validated on the first corner. Though also that previous 58 I did cut the inside of Chapter massively. But there was probably some time saved there doing that. Let's not invalidate this one. It's one of the things that I love about the Bentley. You can just absolutely eat curbs. Zero. Well, I was very conservative in turn 1 there last time. No, I didn't really gain that much behind that. Fraction too wide. this time around. Go back to the garage, sort and test some more things. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Bring RST back up. Very first session. Handling. Damper speeds back. Double check some things there for this. So. Ooh. 19.8. Back in for a moment. 18.85. Hey Kevin, this is a normal helmet cam. However, I am moving my head, and it's tracking my head movements. Right, so 59.0. Not really showing too much difference. Having in the car feeling a little bit better. Didn't do that mistake, did I? Alright. Here, click there. Click down on that. What did we have in the dampers that I needed to sort? Bump. Tell you what. Save this first. Version 3. Didn't touch the dampers, so yeah, 15. 15.24. Let's do that. See how that works for the dampers. So click the ride height. Up one click on the front, decrease the bump stop range, make that a little bit stiffer. That should hopefully get us some more aero benefit. Five on the front, 3 on the rear. 3, 5. Okay, that's looking fairly good. It's me, I think. Right, we're gonna try running this. That we didn't change. but the area we did 56 on there. So we got RST again. Next session car parameters. That on there. There's that. That. Drop that. So it's back on track again. Again, some more running. One of the interesting things with the Bentley that I've noticed in a couple of previous races is that actually going up slightly on the ride height on the front tends to work a little bit better with the front splitter. And produces a little bit more downforce. So we'll see how these changes work. I want to be getting into the low 58s if I can. I'm wondering if the plot for the Bentley isn't all that great here. Either that, or I haven't just quite found the magic formula with the setup as of yet. Message. Thing is, pace is fairly consistent at the moment. That's the first flying lap. The tyres are coming up to temperature, so being pretty much bang on where I was previously. It's no bad thing. I just need to try and hook up a good lap, and the tyres are up to 10. That's a proper pressure. I'll do that. Bentley's pretty good around Nürburgring. And I haven't really seen or properly tested any other tracks to get a proper feel. But otherwise, yeah, Zolder is the main circuit for the Bentley. Misano might be quite a good one for it as well, because Misano is all about maximising curve usage.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
Yeah, we're there or thereabouts. Not the way to drive that section. Again, those changes, as per usual. Too hard and too early on the throttle. Okay. I want to try something here. Let's go with this. Oh, no. Right. Let's try this. I think one of the issues that I'm having is understeer on corner exit off of these high-speed corners. So if I stiffen up the rear suspension, stiffen the rear bump, slow bump that is. I think it is I can slow down the amount of squat that I have coming off the corner and try and maintain a little bit more grip on the front end. See how this works. My worry is that the rear is going to be a little bit too stiff in the slow speed corners. There's going to be a little bit too much rotation, but I mean, you're not going to know until you try it out. So the other thing I can do is try taking a little bit of rear wing out. Hey Cardo, how's it going? That's a little better. The boat is being very boaty. A little bit too conservative through there. Alright, we found a bit of pace. I think we're starting to find a little bit more direction now with this setup.
This is being resolved. Car on the left. Clear on the left.
Unintentional. Adam, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. Much appreciated.
Yellow flag in sector 1.
It was just about a clean overtake. Came very close to not being clean. Oh, 7 times softly of a Bentley. try that. There's fire there as well. Let's save this as another version. That felt like a decent change. And then let's try this. Numbers 40, 50, 22. Okay, let's give this a go. So I'm hoping that the front anti-roll bar change, making it a little bit softer, will give us a little bit more grip in the mid-corner. With that, the downforce that I'm going to lose from it, try to counteract with the bump stop offset, lowering that, so there's a little bit more control there. And then, as you saw, take some of the wing off the rear of the car and decrease the rear ride height to kind of compensate, so we should see a little bit more speed on the straights. But also still get plenty of downforce from the rear diffuser. Is pretty much bang on pace with me, it seems. So I'm probably going to do about another 10 or so minutes, and then we'll probably call it a day for this evening. There's a TV program that starts at the top of the hour. I'll watch it with my girlfriend. TV series Peaky Blinders. I want to go and watch that, but at least we made some progression here this evening. As I said earlier, I'll stream tomorrow night as well. I'll stream the practice race there, but also any setup tweaks that I do beforehand as well. Sliding and stepping out a little bit. Yeah, 30 diff.
Yellow flag in sector 2.
Quite low, but it seems to suit the driving style and has worked for me at other circuits. Not a good run through Cops Corner there. It's very much the Lewis Hampton line. Way too tight in the loop there. Actually need to save this change that I keep making here with the brake bias and the ABS. It's at the moment I keep forgetting about it. Tidiest of runs. Mate, this is the last one. there. Hey Pirate, happy Sunday to you as well, buddy. Thanks for swinging on by. Oh god, that's wide. That was messy as hell. Alright, not the best of last laps, but practice the pit entry instead. Very nice. Okay. Ah, he's left the server. Bit of a pain. So yeah, 3 temps off, first sector, 4 temps middle sector. And we're good. The final sector's good. Final sector is exactly where we want to be. It's just the rest. The rest we need to work on. Right. Save this setup one last time. And then we're going to call it a night. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, there's stuff to work on, for sure. But we're started getting somewhere. Kind of starting to poke into the 58s now, but there's a lot of time to be found. It's just gone even quicker. 58.1. No, that was the same that time. Yeah, just poking into the 58s when we want to be in the 58s. So we got some work to do tomorrow. But what I'll do during the day is I'll probably have a look at a couple of videos online just to see what is going on in terms of other people's setups and just try and grab some inspiration there. See if there's anything obvious that I can incorporate into my setup here and just test to see what works and what doesn't. So yeah, as soon as I come on tomorrow to start doing some testing, I'll throw up a live stream. I'll probably end up doing the AOR practice race tomorrow evening as well, so I'll live stream that, and then if needs be, with some more practice after, I'll be covering that too. But yeah, hopefully you kind of enjoyed this first little look into, I guess, the preparation that I do for these AOR races. Doesn't always go smoothly. You don't always gel the setup straight away, but still got plenty of time to try and find the right balance, the right sort of formula to get the car where I want to. So hopefully we can achieve that tomorrow evening. But nonetheless, it's been cool to hang out with you guys here this Sunday evening. Hope you've had a good Sunday. Hopefully you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And hopefully I'll catch you again tomorrow evening. But until then, stay safe, take care of yourselves. Ciao for now.